is a news show.
Sup, nation? It is Thursday. My name's Philip DeFranco, and this is where I talk about news-a-tab stuff and things. I want to talk about Brian Williams. Brian, if you don't know, is the anchor for NBC Nightly News. Brian, who has been described by the president of NBC News as one of the most trusted journalists of our time, who has led this organization through every major news event for the last decade, is in the hot seat because it turns out he lied, or as he puts it, misremembered. So the question is, what did he misremember? Well, he claimed that during the 2003 invasion of Iraq, he was aboard a U.S. Air Force helicopter that was hit by 2 rockets and grounded. So that was a while back. He talked about it then, and the story came back up last week where Brian was reunited with the soldier that saved his life. This report that was then brought up on Facebook resulted in comments from members of the crew that were on board that aircraft. Flight engineer Lance Reynolds writing, "Sorry dude, I don't remember you being on my aircraft. I do remember you walking up about an hour after we had landed to ask me what had happened. Then I remember you guys taking back off in a different flight of Chinooks from another unit and heading to Kuwait to report your, quote, war story to the Nightly News. The whole time we were still stuck in Iraq trying to repair the aircraft and pulling our own security." So Brian Williams gets called out, and then he makes this apology.
On this broadcast last week, in an effort to honor and thank a veteran who protected me and so many others after a ground fire incident in the desert during the Iraq War invasion, I made a mistake in recalling the events of 12 years ago. It did not take long to hear from some brave men and women in the air crews who were also in that desert. I want to apologize. I said I was traveling in an aircraft that was hit by RPG fire. I was instead in a following aircraft. We all landed after the ground fire incident and spent 2 harrowing nights in a sandstorm in the Iraq desert. This was a bungled attempt by me to thank one special veteran and, by extension, our brave military men and women, veterans everywhere, those who have served while I did not. I hope they know they have my greatest respect, and also now my apology.
So he gave that apology in an interview with Stars and Stripes. He says he misremembered the events that happened, which might be hard to swallow, but I kind of believe it. I mean, hell, yesterday I was talking about the time SEAL Team 6 and I killed Bin Laden, and I was like, shit, I misremembered. I didn't do that. I heard about it on TV. No! What are you talking about, Brian Williams? You misremembered having a vehicle you were in shot down by 2 RPGs? And I'm not the only one not buying the story. The internet has been mercilessly mocking him today. So let's take a quick stroll down the halls of history to misremember all the things Brian Williams has done. How could we forget Brian in the trenches defending freedom, and how he became the first man to walk on the moon? Or the time he hitchhiked 800 miles to hear Martin Luther King Jr. speak. Rumor has it, before Brian bumped into MLK, that speech was called the I Have a Thought speech. And of course, most recently, when Brian Williams danced at the Super Bowl halftime show. So let that be a lesson to people. When people say you can't do something, say, hey, I can do anything I want to do as long as I misremember it. And also that when you're a TV news anchor that prides himself on being truthful and you bash internet bloggers for being not as good as you, everyone is going to mock you. But you'll be fine. This will blow over in a few days and you can go back to just continuing doing what you're doing for $10 million a year. Then, a weird story that The Nation sent me. According to reports, a 37-year-old Venezuelan man by the name of Henry Damon has had his nose removed so he could look like his idol Red Skull. This is what he looked like before and now. So this is apparently a thing that I want this story to be fake. What? And my first thought is, okay, this guy, he has to probably have mental problems. But according to Emilio Gonzalez, the body modification artist that removed his nose, and if you're wondering what his background is, reportedly he's a former med student who dropped out to pursue body modification. He says, Henry is an excellent son, husband, and father who has an extreme taste for body modification. And it's one of those things that I'm like, I don't get it, but also, I guess he's not technically hurting someone. I am a bit concerned that his idol is a super Nazi, but ultimately I say best wishes. Here's to hoping you never need glasses. Then, I'd like to thank the nation for helping me find Radiopedia. It's a site all about radiology that was founded in 2005, but accidental pun aside, it ultimately is just a treasure trove of, oh my god, what is that? Sometimes broken bones and oddities, but mainly just people putting stuff up their butt they shouldn't. Like you have your regulars, large sex toys getting stuck in the butt, but then it just gets weirder and weirder. You've got an orange, a fly spray can, and then easily my favorite, an instant coffee jar. Not only because it's weird, but because part of me kinda hopes that's the reason that Folgers is the best thing about waking up. Then a list I always share every year, the 25 worst passwords of last year. Every year, web security specialist Splash Data goes through 7 million using leaked passwords in search for the favorites, the most common and thus worst passwords in the world. So if one of the following 25 are one of your passwords, slap yourself in the face and change it. 123456, password. 123455, 1234567 QWERTY, 123456789, 1234, baseball, dragon, football, 1234567, monkey, let me in, ABC 123, 111111, Mustang, access, shadow, Master, Michael, Superman, 696969, 123 Batman. And very appropriately, number 25 on the list, trust no one. So if you have any of these passwords, change it, although the truth of the matter is that most likely it doesn't matter. Because even if someone can't guess your password or hack you, someone else you use probably will. The most recent and high profile was Anthem Insurance, who announced today tens of millions of personal records have been stolen. And while the information does not include credit card numbers this time, it does include names, date of birth, social security numbers, street addresses, email addresses, employment information, and income data. So you know, what's the worst they could do with that? So spread the word, because the Wall Street Journal estimates this involves 80 million people's information. Then I wanted to share possibly the stupidest thing of the day. I didn't know slap-offs were a thing. What I mean is, you know, when you're in middle school, there are all sorts of really stupid games like, let's take these quarters and then smack them into each other's knuckles until one of us bleeds. That exists, but I didn't know there was a thing where adults slap each other in the face until one of them loses. But it turns out it is a thing, and it was hosted in Texas. And in the video, there are two slaps. The first and the second, which hits with slightly bigger impact. And that's where I realized, oh, of course. There are a few rules I have when it comes to fights, but the top two: 1, never mess with a guy that has cauliflower ear. It will end up badly for you. And 2, never get in a fight with someone that has face tattoos. I'm gonna go out on a limb here and say that guy doesn't have much to lose. And the last thing I want to talk about today is let it never be said that anger is a bad thing. Anger is a fire, and it's what you do with that fire that makes you good or bad. One of the big things in international news was that a Jordanian pilot was burned alive on camera by the Islamic State. The Islamic State, sometimes referred to as ISIS or IS, seemed to think that this video would instill fear in anyone that was thinking of questioning ISIS. Turns out they did evoke an emotion, but it was not fear. And it wasn't just that. The UN has come out with claims that the Islamic State is selling, crucifying, and burying children alive in Iraq. There are even reports of children, especially children who are mentally challenged, who have been used as suicide bombers, most probably without them even understanding. And these recent events seem to have united many in the Arab world against ISIS. And that's where we are today. It does appear to be a huge shift. But the big pull away is all of these terrible things that have been happening to try and instill fear in the masses. While some are scared, it has brought out bravery in many. And the Islamic State may have just hit a hornet's nest. And that's where I'm gonna end today's show. And if you don't want this rodeo to end, I post a brand new vloggy featuring a new toy that I think I love. There was also a bunch of stuff for Today and Awesome that I didn't feature today, so you can check that out as well. And I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, hit that thumbs up button. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button. But of course, as always, my name's Philip DeFranco. You've just been filled in. I love your faces, and I'll see you next time. They made it so that it can work on either camera. So it used to go around just the side, but now when you put it on, you get the front and back attachments at the same time.
You don't want to do anything that could get somebody hurt on the road. Instead, you should murder the person's next door neighbor.